Greetings and salutations. You've arrived at After Dark with Super Marcey. Join your host, Super Marcey, as she brings you a show that's a little darker, sexier, and edgier, with sexploitation cinema, topical discussions, and all things that happen after dark. Listener discretion is advised, as this podcast will feature coarse language and adult themes. Remember, what happens after dark stays after dark.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 2 of After Dark with Super Marcey podcast. I'm of course Super Marcey, and today it is a very non-Valentine's Day experience, so be prepared because there's no room for those romantic comedies on this podcast. But I'm joined by a very special guest. He is one of the hosts for the Indicator cast, which does not go after dark very often. I don't know. Please welcome John Mathews to After Dark.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
I hope you liked that really bizarre intro.
Yes, no, we haven't actually gone after dark. We have gone on the borderline with some of the films we've covered, but not into the depths of After Dark. So, yes, I am. Yes.
Well, you're not going to miss out now because we're After Dark.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's February, and that means Valentine's Day. And not everyone likes Valentine's Day. I don't really care, to be perfectly honest, one way or another. But, you know, people like sharing all their favorite romantic or romantic comedy movies, and they're not my cup of tea, and they're not your cup of tea either.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like I said, it's just another day, I guess, Valentine's Day. But yeah, I always see people sharing the general romantic comedies, like The Notebook and whatnot. But yeah, there are much better and much more deeper films than that, shall we say? So.
Yes, there's definitely a lot more you could explore on Valentine's Day. So here are our, I guess, recommendations for some non-traditional movies that you can watch on Valentine's Day or in the lead up or after or anytime really. But, you know, it's topical, so let's do it. We both have 5 movies each that we're going to recommend. So, Mr. Mathews, why don't you kick us off with one of your picks?
Yeah, so the first one for me is a 80s comedy. Now, funny enough, we had some guests around the other night, and they wanted, and I haven't seen this movie in years, and it kind of sparked why I put it on the list. They wanted to watch something 80s comedy, so we eventually settled on Something Wild, which is a 1986 film, I think it is, the year exactly. And yeah, like I said, it's just a really, directed by Jonathan Demme, who would go on to do Arms of the Lambs and other films. But yeah, it's just a really underrated sort of romantic road movie that has a dark shift, which a lot of people don't expect in it. And you've got an amazing cast. You got Melanie Griffith playing Lulu. So essentially, it's about a guy who sort of down his luck, walks out of a cafe and doesn't pay for his lunch. And Lulu notices and says to him, "Hey, you know, you're actually, you didn't pay for your lunch. You're actually a rebel." And then she takes him in the car and they go on this road trip. And it's a really fun movie with an amazing soundtrack, really good energy. There's no dull moment in it. And in terms of I would definitely say this is a Valentine's movie because there is a romantic interest between the Melanie Griffith character and Jeff Daniels, and you've got Ray Liotta in there as a crazy ex-boyfriend later on. It's a really great film, really fun, and I hadn't seen it in years, and I just forgot how good this movie is. So if you want to show someone an 80s comedy, it's sort of a lighter introduction to the more, I wouldn't say extreme, but it has got a dark side to this film, and it's a great way to kind of get people into that sort of genre just by kind of leading them in with thinking it's a comedy and then ending up being this sort of dark drama by the end of it. But that's not to spoil it. But yeah, anyway, that's my recommendation. But it's a great romantic road movie, and I think it's one of the better Valentine's movies I would recommend if you want something different.
Wow. I haven't seen it. I know of it, but I haven't seen it. So I may have to actually check it out for my Valentine's Day or thereabouts.
Well, and it's a good one. Like I said, you can watch it with anyone if they're not into horror or whatever, you can just chuck that on, and it's a good,
Yeah.
it's a fun movie. It was a crowd pleaser. Everyone liked it. So
Well, that's always a promising, reaction.
yes, there were no walkouts. So
Yeah, well, that's always good. Maybe if I showed my pick, one of my picks, people might walk out. Speaking of, road movies, one of my picks is David Lynch's Wild at Heart, starring a man who always has my heart, Nicolas Cage, and a woman who has always had my heart, Laura Dern. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. That just needs to be said. It's a David Lynch movie, so it's definitely going to be right up there. In the whole movie, it is a love story between the two characters of Sailor and Lula. It is a crazy romance. It goes in the most craziest of, well, they get caught up in the most craziest of things while on this road trip, and things go from bad to worse to crazy. But it is just this insanely bizarre, surreal, but just incredibly beautiful movie. And it's not everybody's cup of tea because, it's David Lynch. It goes to some very dark places. Willem Dafoe in this movie still gives me nightmares. It's, oh, yeah. It's kind of a toss-up between, like, Willem Dafoe in this and Dennis Hopper in Blue Velvet, for who is creepier and more insane. But yeah, Wild at Heart is just amazing, and you want a snakeskin jacket without a doubt. But yeah, I mean, maybe our two movies could be a good, like, double feature.
I think so. Yeah, they're both road movies.
There's also another thing that's with Wild at Heart. Good soundtrack. Yeah, it's my very sort of anti-Valentine's Day movie pick.
Well, I just love how it opens with like this little like upbeat, like sort of 50s song that just turns into some sort of like metal track, and he's bashing that guy's head. And
David Lynch, telling his version of the Wizard of Oz, so can't go wrong with that. What was one of your other picks?
Yes, so my other pick is, speaking of Valentines, it is the 2000, I think it was, when it came out, a film called Valentine. And I thought I'd chuck a slasher in here because there are a few Valentine-themed slashers.
Bloody Valentine.
My
two.
Bloody Valentine. Yep. Times two, yep. Lover's Lane. I think maybe even, I can't remember, Cherry Falls are set around, but there's a few sort of in that sort of vein. But yeah, this, like I said, this is, I think we spoke on the 2000s one. I love 2000s horror, and this is a really, really cool slasher. And essentially it's about, at a school dance in the 80s, there's this kid who gets essentially bullied and picked out, and everyone makes fun of him. And then years later, he comes back, or is it him? And he's killing off the people who are mean to him one by one. And it's just a really fun slash. Like I said, the killer wears this Valentino mask and has the Cupid, and literally is picking people off one by one. Great kills, great effects, great cast, awesome soundtrack. Yeah, Valentine is just a really fun slasher. And if you want to watch a film about Valentine's Day, if you're in slashers, this is the pinnacle. It's a really great film, and yeah, once again, one of the last big budget sort of horror movies. So I recommend Valentine from 2000.
It's had a bit of I think it celebrated an anniversary recently, so it's been all over Twitter, which is great to see, all the horror fiends celebrating an anniversary of a really fun movie. I actually haven't seen it since maybe VHS, so it's something I've been meaning to actually revisit. But as you describe it, I'm like, why does that sound like something I would do? Like, I'll get back at everyone. Good choice.
And it's great. It's a great film, yeah. And like I said, just a really cool killer, and very underrated. So that's my
A+ for that one. I'm going to go something a little bit more serious, but it's a bit more unconventional in terms of, I guess, romance, but not unconventional in the way that people may think, because I'm not like that. So I'm picking a film called Weekend from, I think it was 2011. And this one is where these two guys meet, and they basically end up spending the weekend together, talking and having sex. And they form this bond over these few days, and by the end of it, you're so invested, you're so intrigued by these two characters, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm planning their wedding in my head. And then, the time comes and they have to, part ways. So one of them's moving away, and it kind of rips out your heart a little bit. And I think, I'm pretty sure I saw this at like a preview, like media screening, and I was in tears trying to hide it from everybody else that was there, because I was so invested in these two characters, and all they do is just hang out, have sex every so often, talk. it's like, another version of the Australian film Better Than Sex, which was actually my sister's big first production, which is a very hard film to track down these days. So we need to get that. But yeah, it's, if you think about, like, I guess, like, Before Sunrise, that was the original one, wasn't it? Before Sunrise.
Yep. Yeah, before.
Yeah, it's kind of in that kind of vein, but it's probably got a lot more sex.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want your heart ripped out after you get to know two very lovely characters and you're planning their wedding in your head because they're going to spend the rest of their lives together, it all stops. Yeah, it's kind of an anti-Valentine's pick, but yeah, it's a heartbreaking Valentine's pick.
It is, yeah. I really like this film. Great pick.
Mm.
I discovered it. It's actually in the Criterion Collection. So
I wasn't aware of that, actually.
Yeah, so once again, it's sat on the shelf for a while, and once again, I just the subject matter didn't seem something I'd really jump to. But when I started watching it, you're right, I just got so invested in these two characters and the conversations, and yeah, you're right. I do remember the ending. It's very heartbreaking. It's been a while since I've seen it. It's probably about 8 years or so, but I do want to go back and yeah, it's a great, very good.
It really is, and it's one that I just know I'm going to be so heartbroken upon a rewatch. It's just so hard for me to rewatch it.
It is, yeah. It's one of those movies. Those, I guess, from memory, what was going to be sort of a one night stand becomes something much.
It's like the few days because they get along so well, and
weekend, yeah.
That's why it's the weekend, not the singer.
No.
And what is your next pick?
And sorry, I apologize. For some reason, I was thinking, why are you picking the Aussie film week?
No.
What the hell is
Yeah, I picked, what is it, Long Weekend?
Long Weekend. Yeah, Long Weekend.
Yeah, that's totally, I mean, that could be on this list.
Yeah, it's romantic getaway movie, some scenery. Some nature.
No evil nature or anything in that movie.
No, not at all. No. Perfect. So my next pick is the 2002 film, I think it is. Sorry, I should look these dates up for. Yes, 2002 film, Secretary. Which, yeah, I just think it's an amazing film. And when I first saw it, I just fell in love with it. And I think, there's been a lot of, these, so-called S&M theme films like 50 Shades of Grey that a bunch of housewives watch at parties and think they're watching something naughty. But no, this is a really amazing film. And I guess that obviously the general plot is Lee goes to work with the great James Spader, who pretty much is a lawyer and needs a secretary in his office. And what's her name? Maggie Gyllenhaal, yes. Pretty much plays this character that's really like a messed up individual, and she doesn't really know her place in life. And she goes to work for James Spader as law firm. And then eventually that becomes more of a relationship, and she realizes that James Spader is like a dom into S&M. And it's just a really beautiful film in a way, because these two characters connect, and she finds this world that she didn't really know she'd have any interest in, and her as a person starts finding a place in the world because she's really messed up individual, and the relationship between Spader and her is just incredible, and some really amazing stuff in the film, like putting a saddle on her and just a whole bunch of really insane stuff. But yeah, it's just a really great film, and it will emotionally get to you as well by the end of it. So it's not just a gimmick like some people think it's like a 50 Shades of Grey or something. Just sort of this is like a really damn good film. And so I recommend it for those adventurous on Valentine's who want to watch something a little bit different. It's like I said, even if you're not into the subject, you'll find the film really interesting, and this is it's just a great film overall, and I highly recommend it.
I agree. It is a great film, and you really feel that there is a connection between the two characters, and that's what makes it so different than 50 Shades of Grey, besides just about everything else. But you believe it, and when they're not together, you want to see them back together because you see how they make each other feel. But with all that said, I mean, if 2002 James Spader wanted me to be a secretary, wouldn't say no.
What's the thing I love about it is very grounded in reality. Like, it's not 50 Shades of Grey is just some sort of like fantasy settings, plastic people, plastic world. But this is in essentially Spader's home office's house, and he's brilliant as always. But just something you would not suspect, but it's very, very good.
Yes, indeed. I like that pick. I had actually considered that as one of my choices.
Well, I had to pick one S&M film, and that's like the best one.
Yeah, and we needed one James Spader film.
Of course.
Because he is, James Spader. My next pick is a really amazing, incredible, beautiful film from Peter Jackson. It is at its core, a love story, a very forbidden love story. No, I'm not talking about like Lord of the Rings or whatever. It's not about that. It's about, I was talking about The Lovely Bones. No, wait, that's not right. Was it King Kong? No, that wasn't right either. No, we're talking about Brain Dead, or as it was known elsewhere, Dead Alive.
The Americans got it Dead Alive.
Yeah, but Brain Dead, it is, you know what? This movie is one of the best. It is just amazing. It is so much fun. It is so gory. It's so silly. It is so funny. And it is so over the top, but it has so much heart in this film, and the love story between Lionel. It's Lionel, isn't it?
Lionel, yes.
Lionel and Paquita. Oh my gosh. They are the cutest like couple ever, and their journey is so crazy, but it's so beautiful. They go through everything together. It's kind of incredible, and this makes a really good Valentine's movie because it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane, and you can enjoy the love story because it is adorable. And if you haven't seen this crazy movie from Peter Jackson, you owe it to yourself to see this crazy movie from Peter Jackson. It is amazing.
Incredible.
This is what Valentine's Day is all about. Lots of gallons of fake blood in a movie.
Absolutely, yeah. Brain Dead's just a classic. I mean, it's like I said, he was able to pull off so much in the film. Like I said, there's this very sweet romantic story. There's zombies. There's a rat monkey. There's an evil baby. It's just an incredible film. I remember first seeing it, just being amazed by it. The tape which we had here was just Brain Dead, and we got it uncut. And just the effects are just insane. And like I said, I guess like don't be put off, because some people may be put off by the gore, but you can't take it seriously. It's just so
you can't. It's so over the top. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's like his zombie mother and the zombie priest have sex and have the zombie baby, and then Lionel takes the baby out to the park. Like, it is ridiculous.
And there's a priest that he beats up, I kick ass for the Lord.
Yeah. He needed like 20 spin-off movies.
Yes. Where's the priest spin-off movie? Come on.
Yeah. We're waiting, Peter Jackson. I don't want Beatles movies. I want the kick-ass priest movies.
I would love if he came back and did some horror.
It wouldn't it be amazing?
Yes, and he keeps saying he's going to re-release his old films, but it's yet to happen. Like, give them a proper 4K treatment.
I want my 4Ks. Yeah. I mean, I could have easily picked something like Heavenly Creatures, but I think it's a bit too dark for right now.
Yeah, actually, Brain Dead's a more fun, upbeat. Yeah. It's essentially a comedy. I mean, it's a horror.
Yeah, it really is. And it just happens to have one of the greatest movie romances of all time.
Yes, between those two.
Woo! All right, what is your next pick?
Yes, so my next pick is a French film from 1986, I think. I should always check before. 86, yes. Called Betty Blue. Now, this is a film that really amazed me when I first saw it, and I didn't know what to expect from it. And it's a romance film. It's a romantic film. It's 3 hours. A 3 hour film.
It is a long film.
I know. You see that, and most people immediately get put off French 3 hours. But no, it's an amazing story between essentially a relationship between these two characters, a handyman and this woman, Betty, and it shows their journey leaving a seaside beach, going off on a bit of an adventure. But the film deals with something quite interesting. It deals with mental illness, and it's a really heartbreaking film, because it's you imagine someone you love and your partner, and then seeing them degrade and seeing Betty essentially slowly deteriorate. Not really a spoiler, because it is kind of the main theme of it, and you see it progress. But it's just a very unusual film, but with a lot of amazing scenes where she burns down like their beachside house, and she goes crazy in a restaurant, stabs a woman with a fork. It's quite interesting. So it's just like I said, I just picked it because if you want a French romantic film, be really fancy on Valentine's, and you want something different, Betty Blue is very different. There's plenty of, like, say, graphic sex, which is great. The French aren't afraid to be like Hollywood romantic movies, or they, everything's fake. It's very passionate and real, and
it's very real, and
very real,
very true.
So yeah, like I said, Betty Blue. I recommend it. It's a great romantic film. And the subject it deals with is very different to anything you get out of Hollywood. So yeah,
it's been quite a few years since I've seen this, but I think I may. I'm trying to remember. I might have rented it when I first got a DVD player. or really early days.
Yeah, I actually
Yeah.
saw it first on DVD. It was like a really early DVD here. It actually
Mm.
came out locally.
Yeah, well, let's see, you remember, so I'm probably right then.
Yes.
And, maybe I was a little bit sort of still quite young and still experiencing, what film, things about films. And it wasn't until I watched it a few years later I really got so much more out of it. So, yeah, it's a very, very good pick. Definitely recommend people check that out if they haven't.
Yes, definitely.
Mm.
100%.
Well, yeah. French. No.
Yeah.
No offense to anyone who's French who's listening. All right. So my next pick is very unconventional. I'm gonna look. If people know me, they know that I unironically have an obsession with films about obsession. So
Mm.
yeah, I've chosen single white female. No, that's not. No, not quite. I've gone with something maybe kind of a little more obscure, but it's not terribly obscure. Another, I guess, it would go in the sort of category of horror, but more earlier horror. And I've gone with Mad Love, which I think is from the 30s or 40s. I can't remember off the top of my head.
35, I think. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with Peter Law. And Mad Love is, Peter Law is like this doctor scientist dude, but he has an obsession and he will do anything to win the woman that he truly loves, but very bad consequences. He does some weird hand surgery that doesn't go too well, and the hands are a little bit evil. And in the end, he does not get the girl. But if you want a bit of a mad scientist, horror movie from the 30s, but it has a really strong and interesting story with amazing performances. Peter Law just owns it. Like, oh my gosh, this is a really interesting one. And if you're like me, you're obsessed with weird obsession movies, it's a good one and I highly recommend it. This one is one of the more recent ones I actually discovered because it was on my list of 31 Days of Horror last year. Have you seen this one?
I have, yes. And once again, apologize. I thought you were talking about the 90s road movie Mad Love, which is not very good. But yes,
No.
this one, yes.
I forgot that was a movie.
Yeah. It's a movie now.
Yeah.
Mad Love. Yes, I have seen it. I saw it a few years ago. I like it a lot. Peter Lorre's always great, whatever he's in. But yeah, it has a bit of a Twilight Zone vibe to it, and it's probably ahead of its time. And we've seen a lot of mad body part hand type movies follow in the years, but I think it's a great film. Yeah, it's a really good one. I want to go back and revisit it because it's been a while, but I do remember really liking it.
No, it's really good. I was so impressed when I saw it, and I actually haven't seen the Hands of Orlock, which this is sort of a remake, but that was also a book, I believe. I need to see that version as well because I hear that's quite good. But yeah, no, this one's really, really works. And if you've seen a specific episode of Futurama, there's a bit of hand swapping going on. Deal with the devil. It's a bit like this.
Yes.
Yeah, very much so. Kind of based on this, the original story. And finally, what is your last pick?
Yes, my last pick is the is the 2002 film Punch Drunk Love by Paul Thomas Anderson. I've always loved this film since it came out. I've always been a huge fan. It's one that I try and, if you want to watch a romantic movie that's very unconventional, this is the one. Now, it's, how can you describe it? It is a love story between this, and one, take a step back, it stars Adam Sandler, and a lot of people at the time were surprised because Adam Sandler could actually act, and he's had a resurgence with Uncut Gems, but I think people forget Punch Drunk Love was really where he showed his acting talent. So essentially, Adam Sandler plays Barry Egan. He's a really, I guess, just sort of a man-child, really angry, has a business that he runs, and he has a bit of an obsession with sort of, well, not obsession, but he tries to get into sort of phone sex calls over the phone, and he gets himself in a bit of trouble doing that. And then he eventually meets Lena, who was played by the great Emily Watson, and a sort of a love story blooms between these two, but they're very different. And it's interesting because he, for ages we saw him playing Happy Gilmore and stuff, where he plays sort of angry man-child characters. This kind of breaks that down because it shows that there is a bit of sadness to this character. Like, he is very angry. Like, the scene in a restaurant where he just punches a hole in the wall. Like, you'd see that in an Adam Sandler movie, like Happy Gilmore, and you laugh. But in this film, you're like, hey, that's pretty messed up. He's punching a wall. It's not really.
Yeah, it's almost like you take the comedy, but it's like, let's put these kinds of characters but in more real life. And
Yes.
that's kind of what it is. And he plays to that really well. And it's a shame that he, kept going with really silly comedies and giving his friends work because, the serious stuff, like, he's got it.
Yeah.
He really does. And I haven't seen this for a while, but it's all there. And it's genuinely a good film as well as what he does.
All there, and it's an amazing performance. And you also have the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman, who's obviously a Paul Thomas Anderson regular. He shows up as the kind of the head operation behind the sex phone sort of industry, and there's a scene where they're having this argument like, shut up. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, like I said, it's just it's a quirky, unusual, and it really weird sort of electronic soundtrack playing throughout it. It's just a very unusual film, and I think I hope people go back and watch it because of Uncut Gems. Yeah, it's strange how he just went on to do like Jack and Jill and crap like that when when he had the acting chops, and I know he just didn't pursue it. I guess maybe there's more money in stupid comedies, but yeah, it's my recommendation if you want to watch something unusual on that day.
Yeah, I think probably all of our picks are a bit more unconventional for a romantic day.
Yes.
And my final pick is it involves something a bit vampiric. Because why not? It is the 2009 film Thirst. Yeah, again, this one, it's been a while, and it was again a discovery for 31 Days of Horror like many years ago. But I was completely floored by this film. I was just wow. And it's just, there's so much to kind of explore in this film. A priest ends up becoming like, he gets like the vampirism and things change, but this also, I think, like culminates with, I'm trying to remember, it's kind of, see here, I'm just trying to think, I should have like refreshed myself a little bit with it. But I think it's like a childhood's friend or one of his childhood friends' sister or wife. I honestly can't remember at this point, but there's there's a lot of naughty things going on. There's lots of blood going on, but Jesus, like, wow. Thank you, Park Chan-wook, for a very bizarre and intriguing take on something vampiric. But I think there is a bit of that obsession stuff in there too. Might secretly be why I picked it. But yeah, I'm trying and sucking at remembering the finer plot points because it has been a little while. But yeah, have you seen this?
Yeah, I really liked Thirst. I saw it when it came out, probably about 10 years ago. And once again, I'm in the same boat. I love it. I remember really liking it, but there are certain points I just can't remember too much about. It's one of those, I do want to go back and revisit it. I do remember it's an interesting take on the vampire, and part of that, so that Korean new wave of films at the time. But it's a great film. It's a great film, and I would like to revisit it.
I think I put on this list because I'm like, A, more people need to watch it, and B, I need to actually revisit it as well. Because, again, films don't often completely, like, just floor me so bad. This one really did. Maybe it's because, there's the themes of, like, Catholicism, which I always find fascinating in film. See episode 1 of this podcast. But when you have, like, a Catholic priest turning into a vampire, and then he's in love with, I think, like his childhood friend's wife, and there's all that as well. It goes in places you don't think. It's just so beautifully shot and so amazingly acted. Like, just see it. There is something special about Eastern cinema. It really is just incredible. Like I almost, like, I had quite a list of films and I narrowed it down, but I also had Old Boy on the list because I thought I'll give it an honorable mention on this. Old Boy, you get to see a lot of messed up stuff, a love story you get really invested in, and then a twist at the end that you just, yep, I'm done. I give up on everything. I'm never going to be happy again. So there's an honorable mention for everybody as well.
Great choice, Old Boy.
They don't happen to have the same director at all. Oh, wait, yes, they do.
Oh, yes.
Can make it a double feature.
Yes.
Were there any films you had on your, like, bigger list that you think might be a good honorable mention?
Yes, I did. Yeah, there are a few. I had one was obviously Harold and Maude. I think it's a great.
Yeah, I considered that too.
Yeah.
Even though
I think it's a little bit too well known, but
yeah,
great sort of Valentine's film.
It very much fits like the Unconventional because it's a 60-year age gap love story.
Yes,
essentially.
yes,
yeah,
absolutely, and great film overall. I put True Romance because kind of you were doing Well at Heart. I thought they were pretty similar, and I think a lot of people have maybe seen True Romance a little bit more. But I think that's a great one.
It is, yeah.
What else? I had quite a list out of here, but yeah, those were a few that come to mind.
Yeah, one of my other ones that I had down, like I mentioned Better Than Sex earlier, because of the film Weekend. Yeah, another one on my list, which is kind of unconventional because this ain't really a love story, which would be Romeo and Juliet, as in the Baz Luhrmann, Leonardo DiCaprio, Claire Danes version. Yes, there is a romance, but they're two kids who don't know any better, and all this other messed up stuff happens around them. And that film is incredible. It's got the best soundtrack. It is Shakespeare done in such an incredible way that I love so much. So that would also be another kind of unconventional option because it doesn't have a happy ending either. And people should stop romanticizing that story. Just saying. That's why I picked that version because I don't think it really does. I think that's the point. But we'll wrap it up. Good choice. But we might give maybe one recommendation for an actual romantic and happier film. So maybe a romance, maybe a romantic comedy, but something we actually consider. Yeah, I don't like the genre, but this one I like. So I'm probably putting you on the spot, so I might just go first instead.
Yes.
One that I really do like, I haven't seen it for a while, so I'm sure there's really stupid problematic issues in it, but I've always absolutely loved, speaking of Adam Sandler, The Wedding Singer.
Yes.
It's such a charming movie. It's got the best soundtrack again. And Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore have so much chemistry. And this isn't as overly silly as some of his other films. It is sort of more drama, romantic comedy. And it just all really works. It overdoes the 80s to the point that it works. The characters are just, you probably knew people like that, which is what makes it work. But yeah, for an actual romantic comedy, that one gets my vote because I actually really enjoy that film. I think I saw it like 3 times in theaters when it came out, and I remember I had the VHS.
And once again shows that he could act.
Yeah, even though it is still a comedic type performance, there are some really serious scenes that he actually plays that kind of character so well. And again, they had the chemistry. It was so there. It just, you really wanted these two characters together by the end.
Yeah.
And then it's very sweet when they do. So have you thought of one?
Yeah, my generic sort of romantic comedy, which I don't know, I saw this in the cinemas, and I've had a weird thing for this movie. I think parents really like this movie too. My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I don't know, for some reason.
I've seen it a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's funny because it's like it's just got so much in terms of Greek culture, because my dad's actually Greek, so I'm technically half Greek. But yeah, just to see the family and there's a lot to relate to, and the characters in it, and it's just a funny film. Like, it's hilarious.
It really is.
I think every character in it is just brilliant. The dad who's always using Windex to clean everything. And everyone's got the same name, all the family.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a really funny film. But yeah, it's just a crowd pleaser. It's a stupid comedy, but it's fun. And the second one's awful. Don't watch it.
It's not. It's The original. It was just a little surprise hit, and it was very sweet. Its heart was in the right place. It has all the stereotypes in a way that's like, it's kind of true, and a lot of people really related to it, right?
Yeah, and it's also about, because like I said, parents don't really care, but I do know strict Greek families where they just want them to marry other Greeks, and so it's and it's about two cultures coming along. It's a sweet little film. You're right; it was a bit of a sleeper hit. No one saw it coming, and I think it's a really good film.
It's a sweet film.
Yeah, but I think people have heard of it, but for those who haven't seen it, definitely.
Well, it's something, it's been, quite a number of years since it's been out. People tend to kind of forget about some of these little
like
sleeper
20
hits.
Years.
Yeah. I mean, R.I.P. to I'm going to forget his name. He passed away, I think.
Oh, the dad. Yeah.
Michael Constantine. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, his delivery on everything, it's so beautiful. I love it. It's so great. I mean, me being from the Italian background, like Greek and Italian, they're different but similar.
Yeah.
So you would have like, your Italian like grandfather or dad character. He'd be saying something very similar, just more, Italian related. And it works. Every culture kind of has this thing, and that's why I think movies like this are great. You can embrace it and everything. Like, you shouldn't be ashamed of these things. Embrace everything. I hope everybody enjoys their Valentine's Day, whether they like it or not. It's just another day. There is always adult stores if you don't feel like finding a date. So that could help, but maybe watch a few of these movies and don't follow all the traditions. Be untraditional and watch Brain Dead and Punch Drunk Love one after the other. Be a great feature.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But thank you so much for being my guest on the show.
Yes, no worries. Thank you for having me. It was great. I can't wait to do it again. I know we have an episode lined up for a movie double. So
so we'll be doing that very soon, and probably a few more things down the line, because I've kind of added to my schedule now because I'm crazy.
Yes.
But this is kind of a subject that I've wanted to do for a while, the more unconventional Valentine's film. So I'm glad I was able to do it, and I'm glad that you were able to join me. You can be found on the Indicator cast.
Yes, that's correct.
And so people can find that on Facebook and podcast streaming.
Podcast land, Spotify, and soon we are launching an imprint podcast, which will be sort of a spin-off sort of podcast. So we'll talk about imprints.
Very exciting. Imprint do great work,
and we hope to have you guys on for that as well.
At least you want to have me on more than Bede. Just saying.
Yes, of course,
I'm kidding.
Get Bede.
No. All that loves to Bede, my lovely co-host on all the other podcasts I do. He's not banned from this one, but he's got to get less terrible for it. So everyone check out Indicator Cast, especially if you are a lover of the Indicator releases and, your physical media. You can find us at After Dark Network on the link trees. So just type in linktr.ee/After Dark Network, and you can just look up After Dark with Super Marcey. You'll find me on all your social medias and podcast platforms. So until next time, thank you, John, very much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you.
And remember, everybody, what happens after dark stays after dark. Bye-bye.